It's good to see everybody this morning. Thank you for being here. You've probably noticed that Center for Spiritual Living Asheville is not normal. We're not. We don't follow the normal ways of seeing things in our culture. It's not an accident that we're called science of mind and that science is the first word. You know, the full name of this, I don't know why they cut it down, but it's science of mind and spirit. And so the idea of having a scientific way of revealing the presence of the divine and the use of mind is what we're about. Which means that we don't do a lot of the things that other spiritual communities do. For example, we do not follow the rules set by others. Many of them set long ago. There's not rules in this. What we do is we are seeking to become more consciously aware of ourselves and our world. And that we come together to do that, to become more conscious. We're not into worshiping a deity. That's not important to us. Awakening to our own spiritual magnificence, however, is important to us. That we awaken and see the power that we hold in life. We do not ask a God to help us, but instead we learn to control the conditions in our lives. And finally, in my little list here, we are not earning a ticket to heaven. We are finding that we are eternal beings already. See, we're not normal. And I like it that way. So we're going to talk some science today. We're going to talk about time. We all think we know what time is. We use that term all the time. One of the ways we often use it is, I don't have enough time. I don't have time for that. Well, a great teacher from the East had something to say about that. Oh, I went the wrong way. I did that. Lao Tzu said, time is a created thing. So to say I don't have time is to say I don't want to. So I invite you all to stop saying you don't have time, say you don't want to. It's more honest. Because you don't want to do it. If you wanted to do it, there would be time to do it. There would be plenty, because that's how it works. We create this, and it looks like we're in this thing where it is created around us, but we are still in charge, and it's really important to remember that. There's another element of this thing called time. There's a scientific definition, and I love it. This changes how I perceive this concept of time. Says time is a measurement of the changing positions of objects. That's exactly what it is. The first time that people came up with had to do with the revolution of the earth into a full circle. And they gave that time a name, that unit of time. They called it a day or whatever in whatever language, but that's what we call it. Then there was this idea that the earth travels around the sun. It orbits the sun. And that when you do one full orbit, we call that a year. That's a unit of time. And then, of course, some genius figured out that we could subdivide our days into hours and minutes and seconds. And what has become of all this is that we've become obsessed with time in a way that we think it somehow controls us. But that's the illusion. Time truly is an illusion. It only exists because we say it exists. The truth is that we have a changing positions of objects. And that's all that's going on. And our bodies are part of that. We're part of this obvious thing that's happening of the changing positions of objects. Otherwise, time's pretty much an illusion. Now, I'm not telling you to take on this notion of time as an illusion and things, and then I don't have to do anything. No. The sunrise is an illusion. The sun isn't rising. The sun is not stationary, but it is not coming up over the earth. The earth is revolving, and we are on the planet so that at a certain point, we see that sun in the horizon, and then it goes overhead, and then it looks like it sets in the West, but that's not what's happening. The earth is revolving. So we only get to see the sun part of the time. And because of the tilt of the earth's axis, that keeps changing. How much is light, how much is dark? How much is cold, how much is warm? It's a natural thing. It's really the elegance of living on this planet. So that we get seasons and we get all the joys of experiencing things in a constant state of change, because change is the constant. And we are in that season. So here's what I want to tell you about is the two major ideas in science that address time. One is called quantum mechanics. That was actually created as an idea about 120 years ago by a German physicist named Max Planck. And this physicist came up with this idea that the way the universe works is that there are these things called quanta, these little packets of energy. And sometimes they're in waves, and sometimes they're in points or what is it? No, not bursts. It's waves or particles. Particles is the word. And that here's the coolest thing about quantum mechanics. We, with our mind, can change them from waves to particles or particles to waves. Ooh. Which leads us to believe that if you can change particles and waves, you can change anything by the way you perceive it. Wow, that is very cool. But the thing about quantum mechanics is that it says that time just keeps ticking along and is a constant. Okay. And then there's the other one, and it's called general relativity. And that, of course, is from Albert Einstein, who Barbara already spoke of this morning. And that has a really different way of experiencing time. It says that time is relative, that it's relative in the universe, in the fabric of the universe. Time slows. He said that even near black holes, which are these voids in the fabric of the universe, that time actually stops. Fascinating. And it's not that we don't experience that. We certainly do. The same way that we can change particles to waves and waves to particles, we can change time. We can change time because when things are really, really wonderful in our lives, time speeds up. And when we're stuck in a problem or a challenge, time slows down. And we just sludge along. We're doing that. We're creating that because we're changing our perception of the movement of objects. And by changing our perception, we're generally changing time. So this notion of time is this thing that human beings use, and they get caught up in it, and they give it great power. And we do some really strange things around this idea of time that slows us down and makes us live in a kind of world where time has more power than we do. So how does that work? And of course, I'm talking about all this because we're getting ready to do that thing that we do as a culture and change from one number to another number. It's called a year. And it was set up long before we were around that this system works, that every 12 months gets a new number. And we're going from 2021 to 2022. And what does that mean? Well, we give it all kinds of power that things will change in the new year. That things will be different in this year that is coming. And they will, because change is obvious. What is the change that's going to happen? That's up to us. We get to choose what life will bring to us. It is not laid upon us. We are in charge of that. We get to decide. We get to choose what we have in our lives. The year doesn't do it. The number doesn't do it. The movement of objects doesn't do it. We do it. And that really changes the dynamics of this thing that we continue to call time, which to me continues to be an illusion. So what if we stopped letting time have this power in our lives? What if we put that kind of in the back of our mind and started really focusing on the only point in that movement of objects that has any real value, and that would be now, right now. Because otherwise, we can't do anything about it. Time being an illusion, everything that has happened in the past is not real. Oh, yes, it is. I saw it happen. You have a memory of it happening, but it's not happening now, so it's not real. You can change your memory of it, but that's all you can change, and people tend to do that. It's interesting that when things are tough, when something that we would call terrible happens, we have a very strong memory of that event. We don't remember time. We remember moments. We remember events. And if the time is difficult and we're struggling with it, we tend in our memory to make it worse than it was. Our memory is, if we hold on to it, we hold on to that divorce, if we hold on to that past, when somebody passed, if we hold on to that car accident or that heart attack or whatever it is, we begin to struggle. And that memory becomes something that is not happening in the past, it's happening in us in the now moment. And we're giving it great power. And in the same way, if something lovely happens, we tend to forget about it. We don't hold strong memories of the really delightful times in our lives. We struggle with the times that are hard. And the point of that is that it's all an illusion anyway, so let it go. Oh, yes, we must be informed by history. No, I will not argue that there's value in history, but people play games with history. It's just like memories. It is memories, except people have written it down. But they've written it down through their consciousness, so it reflects how they perceived it. The Holocaust, for example. There's a Holocaust museum in Washington, D.C., where you can go see all these kind of pictures. And yet, there are cultures in the world that claim that didn't happen. Now, we probably in this room all believe that those things did happen, the atrocities of World War II. Not everybody, though. Some people think that was all made up. And you can go into other events. You can go into 9/11 was made up. You can go into people saying that man being on the moon was made up. Everybody's at choice about that stuff that happened in the past because it's not happening anymore. And it really doesn't matter. We're all finding our way through that. Equally true is that we cannot affect the future. We can prepare for it, but really, in the now moment is the only place where we can do anything about anything. So yes, when we take a stand, when we do a certain thing, when we think a certain thing, we are directing ourselves in a way toward the future, but we can't change the future. It's the way it's going to be. And that doesn't make us helpless because we have this incredible power in the present. All fear lives in the future. We do that from the present and we project into the future of some unknown. And it blocks us and it gets in our way and it's problematic because we see life and we are concerned and fearful of the problems of life. Oh, what if that happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if this person did that? Or what if I forget to blah, 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 blah. I know many of you have heard my little illustration of the snake in the box, but I'm going to say it again anyway. Imagine that I had a box that contained a venomous snake, and I dropped it down there on the floor. Would anybody be afraid? Yes, and especially in this close area, people would be afraid. What would they be afraid of? They would be afraid that the snake would come over and bite them, right? Yes. Now, once you get bitten by a venomous snake, what are you afraid of? Not getting bitten, you've already been bitten. You're afraid you're going to die. All fear is projected from the future into the future. All of it. Oh, well, but I could be afraid of something that happened in the past. No, you're not afraid of something that happens in the past. You're afraid somebody's going to find out about something that happened in the past, but they're going to do that in the future. See how we twist ourselves into this nonsense about how things are? What's the only thing that's going on is now. The only thing you have to deal with is now. The only thing where you can change anything is now. Yet we still play the games. Many of us do. I do. I won't say that I'm outside of this pattern at all. In fact, if you haven't noticed, everything that I teach on Sunday mornings is what I want to hear. That's why I'm up here. Let's talk about lateness. Let me read this little thing from Dr. Seuss. How did it get so late so soon? It's night before it's afternoon. December is here before it's June. My goodness, how the time has flown. How did it get so late so soon? Lateness. People who are late are letting the movement of objects control them rather than controlling the movement of objects. Most people that hurry are hurrying because they're late. And most people that are hurrying are still late when they get where they're going. So there's no need to hurry. What we do is we control the movement of objects. We choose when things go and when we take our body somewhere. It's not somebody else. It's not traffic. It's consciousness. We're in charge. So the hurrying up of life is not important. What's important is that we know we are in charge of our lives at all moments. Do things happen that we would rather not have happen? Absolutely. And that's part of life. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. What Barbara is going through in her life, having had a stroke, is not a bad thing. She's experiencing life in an amazing way. Are there times that are frustrating? Yes. But there's many more times that are sweet and beautiful when we get to be together and just let our souls connect. And it has nothing to do with her having had a stroke. It doesn't have to do with her having breast cancer. And some of you may not know that she has surgery on January 4th to remove that breast cancer tumor from her body. But what we have is now. And if we're wasting this now moment on being afraid of things in the future or letting the past somehow have control over us, we're wasting our lives. Our work. And that doesn't mean that we have to try to do everything we want to do right away. I have found that procrastination can be a wonderful tool. And that when I don't do it and I don't do it and I don't do it, and then I do it, the time I do it is the perfect time for it to be done. So get off your back about that. Oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. No, you've done what you've done, and you're going to do something next. And the only place you're going to do it is in the now moment. So do it. So my purpose here is, of course, as we enter this new year, and some of us will do the New Year's resolution stuff and all, and we'll want to get more efficient in our lives, and we'll want to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. That the truth is that if we simply recognize how life works and how incredibly powerful we are in the now moment, then we can live the life we've come to live and do the things that we've come to do. And life will continue to get better and better in every way. The words of Leonardo da Vinci, time stays long enough for anyone who will use it. Yet, the only time you can use is now. So stay in the now. Ram Dass said, be here now. It's the same thing. Do that good work of knowing that you are incredibly powerful right now. Let go of the things you call failures in the past and the worries of the future. Be here now. Do it now. And live that supreme life of love and light and joy and peace that you were meant to live. I love you very much. Thank you.